Telling the stories that matter to you.
This is one of the biggest scandals in the history of the state of Arizona.
We're talking about millions that have gone out.
Exposing problems that have been overlooked.
It's
How
ridiculous.
is that okay?
Why would anyone be a police officer in Phoenix?
And unreported.
What is the hottest you remember your cell ever getting?
104.
Can you describe to someone what that feels like?
Death. Feels like everything's melting off of you and you're never going to make it out.
To hold the powerful accountable.
Under your watch, were the inmates safe from the heat?
Yes.
And help you make change in your own community.
People ask me, how's your house? And I'm like, horrible.
Our new construction fixer-upper.
Right now, 12 News presents The I-Team 2023.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Curtis.
And I'm Kariba Devine. Right now, we're taking a look at a year of investigations. Those stories from the 12 News I-Team that give voice to the people who haven't been heard.
And we begin with one group of people who voiced their complaints over and over again and said they were ignored. Take a look at these broken pipes and cracks, even rats. It's not what you want in any home, and certainly not what you'd expect to see in a brand new one.
But for the last several months, 12 News investigative journalist Bianca Bono has been reviewing customer complaints about shoddy construction on brand new homes, and joins us now with her investigation, the new home fixer-upper.
From the outside,
You meet the next neighbor.
there's nothing unusual about this neighborhood meetup at Maricopa's new community called the Lakes.
I think you came over and introduced yourself.
But you'll quickly learn these neighbors have a lot more in common than their address.
It's sad. I haven't talked to not one person that is happy, really.
There's no values from these guys.
Not happy about the quality of their new homes built by Richmond American. And this is a neighborhood meeting to share their concerns.
There's no integrity. There's no respect. There's zero professionalism.
We need quality.
We need quality.
Right now it feels like quantity.
Lisa and Michael Murphy purchased a model home, paying extra for it to come fully furnished. They moved in at the beginning of the year, but quickly moved back out.
The house was filthy.
So they hired a cleaning company, making this disturbing discovery.
She called me an hour after she got here and said, there are mice in your couch. Behind the fridge was a dead mouse droppings. They were living in the box springs. They had eaten through the curtains, and the mice had gotten in the dryer.
The Murphys out of their infested home while Richmond American came back and cleaned. And their problems didn't end there.
The irrigation system just blew up.
3 times.
Emails between the Murphys and Richmond American employees, including the senior area construction manager, document their frustrations, making the company aware of plumbing problems. But Richmond American not addressing it or other items on their 96-page inspection report for months.
They treat you like king and queen, but then once you sign and get your money, that's it. It's like they don't care.
2 doors down,
We still haven't had a housewarming because we're too embarrassed.
another couple buying their first home together, but the excitement quickly turning into discouragement.
There has to be some accountability somewhere.
Their inspection report also revealing a long list of issues, including an unacceptable heating and ventilation system, pointing out the vent coming off their furnace goes down before it goes up, which according to the writer of the report can prevent carbon monoxide from venting out of the home.
We've had Richmond come in with their AC people in the attic multiple times, never said anything about it, and the inspection caught that.
For Keith Anacleto, the red flags began when they handed over the keys that he didn't need because his front door didn't lock.
They were like, well, we'll just take your garage door lock and put it on your front door. Why are we doing that? Why don't we just fix it? I paid almost $500,000 for the house.
12 News outlined the concerns of multiple residents in an email to Richmond American, requesting an on-camera interview. Instead, a spokesperson with the company sending a 2-sentence response, saying they don't comment publicly on individual customer situations, but take them very seriously, and any customer can reach out to them with concerns. We also tried to talk to staff in person at their sales office in Maricopa. We were handed an email address.
And they're from this community specifically.
And still have never been contacted back. One resident growing so frustrated, they've posted signs in their front window. A weekly report showing how many items Richmond American has yet to fix in their home.
It's very concerning.
The Grantham family moved in January of 2022.
One of our big major issues was we had in our master bathroom, it appeared to be a fun house.
It wasn't until November that they say Richmond American sent in a team to look at the structural concerns.
And even Richmond admitted is that would make the house unsellable.
This summer, the Granthams moving out for 2 weeks while it was finally fixed.
How did it get missed by every other tradesperson and tradecraft that came through?
In addition to Richmond American, the Granthams have questions for the city of Maricopa.
Shame on the City of Maricopa Inspection Office. I have grave concerns of what the rest of the quality of my house is.
A city spokesperson told 12 News staff conducts or reviews 8 inspections at various stages of construction for all single-family homes to ensure the homes are habitable.
Serious issues are happening more and more often.
Cy Porter with Sci-Fi Home Inspections specializes in new builds.
The city's supposed to be inspecting these homes and signing off. And when they sign off, they get a certificate of occupancy that's pretty much saying this home is to code. But for some reason, that's just not happening. So in my opinion, we just need stricter inspections.
Maricopa spokesperson who declined our repeated requests for an interview said it is not the role of the city to inspect the quality of the home or to punish contractors when homes fail a specific inspection. And complaints regarding home builds are directed to the state.
Nobody takes responsibility and accountability for anything that's happened. It's always someone else's fault.
Several homeowners in this Richmond American community have filed complaints with the Arizona Registrar of Contractors. And in some cases, it's led to them seeing results, or at least getting a response from the builder. But these neighbors say it shouldn't get to that point. Calling on the company, which in a recent investor meeting boasted about building homes faster than before, to join the next neighborhood meeting and come see the community for themselves.
I think they should talk with residents, the city council, and see if they can earn back their right to continue to build.
And Bianca, these problems seem ridiculous. What is going on in that community?
Yeah, a lot of the home buyers are saying they believe builders are prioritizing quantity over quality. And there's a lot of proof if you look at complaints that are being filed about workmanship to the Arizona Registrar of Contractors. And these complaints are not just coming from Maricopa, they're coming from all over Maricopa County. But if you take a look at Maricopa, the town is one of the fastest growing, and it's where several communities have raised complaints about their new home construction. Take a look.
To give you a sense of just how fast the city of Maricopa is growing, it has a population of 64,000 people, a 42% increase since 2010.
All those homes they're building, I mean, it's ridiculous.
And there are about 26,000 housing units with people currently living in them. But according to city data, nearly double that is in the works. About 47,000 units are in some stage of development.
They're handing out permits for new homes left and right. I don't know why.
12 News brought Silvera and others' complaints to 2 lawmakers who represent Maricopa, Senator TJ Shope and State Representative Keith Seaman.
Are you concerned that building is continuing at a fairly rapid pace while many of the residents who have now purchased these homes are raising issues about quality?
Well, of course I'm concerned about that. It seems to me they should fix the home before they go on to another one.
This is probably the first time I've noticed the pace, especially in the last year or so, probably at the pace we saw in the mid-2000s.
How do you respond to some of their complaints?
Look, I obviously feel for these people. I mean, it's the largest investment most likely that you're ever going to make in your life. And you want to make sure that the product is right. So it does, I mean, obviously it concerns, I think, anybody whenever they're not getting a product that is promised to them, delivered to them.
What would your message to them be?
I'm sorry, I don't apologize because it's not my fault, but I will be looking into it and hopefully we'll get something. Maybe I can talk to my colleagues this summer, next year during the term, and get something done.
And we are still hearing from consumers. And looking ahead to 2024, we do plan to follow up with lawmakers and see where this might fall in the legislative agenda.
All right, Bianca, thank you. Investigating viewer complaints and helping you find answers. That is exactly what the I-Team is here to do.
This past summer during Phoenix's record-breaking heat wave, the I-Team's Erica Stapleton, heard a unique complaint that launched months of reporting and ultimately, and thankfully, led to change. Erica?
Right, Mark Ribe. This investigation started from a single viewer email asking for someone to investigate the unbearable heat conditions inside Perryville Women's Prison in Goodyear. Hot temps outside mean hot temps inside for many women locked up at Perryville Prison. The I-Team hearing from 8 women currently incarcerated there, all complaining about extreme heat, broken AC, inadequate swamp coolers, and some cells hitting more than 100 degrees. One woman calling cells concrete coffins. Another telling 12 News she had to be treated for heat exhaustion on Monday after she passed out.
There's a range of heat-related injuries that can occur.
The Arizona Department of Corrections admits that some of the AC systems and evaporative coolers or swamp coolers failed over the weekend, but stated they were also fixed over the weekend. In an email Monday night, a corrections spokesperson wrote that 2 units that house nearly 1,300 women only have the swamp coolers, not AC. And when temps go above 115 and it gets humid like it did this weekend, the spokesperson called conditions not optimal. They say the average temp in cells during the heat wave is 85 degrees, but wouldn't tell us what the highest recorded temperature was.
Several of the units at Perryville, I've been in them before, they're basically giant metal sheds.
Corrine Kendrick is the deputy director of the ACLU's prison project.
The swamp coolers do not provide the cooling that you need.
Despite DOC saying things were fixed, many women told 12 News there were still issues on Monday and Tuesday, some saying they felt they couldn't escape the heat. When the I-Team shot video outside Perryville Tuesday morning, inmates were outside in triple-digit temps, some trying to get shade, others appearing to be part of a work crew.
People who are in prison, they can't go to a cooling center. Air conditioning is not a luxury. Air conditioning is a lifesaver.
The state knows this is an issue, allotting funds for upgrades at Perryville in the latest budget. State contract documents from May 2023 show the state picked a vendor to deliver 2 AC units to Perryville by June 30th. Over email, the corrections spokesperson said that didn't happen and they'd have to order new ones, a project they expect to finish next year. But when I talked to the vendor's manager over the phone, he said that the units were delivered on June 5th and that the state paid for them. We circled back with DOC, but they haven't clarified anything. The Department of Corrections still hasn't been clear about when every unit in Perryville will have air conditioners. Right away, after running that first story, the I-Team began to hear from more inmates and their relatives on the outside. The very next day, the new director of Arizona's Corrections Department agreed to sit down with me for an interview. Here's what he had to say.
Our complexes are no different than the rest of the community that's experiencing what's an unprecedented heat wave. Perryville, along with some of our other complexes, can't escape that.
Perryville Prison had issues with AC and swamp coolers over the weekend, forcing the department to do things like move inmates into the visitation area to cool off or offer extra showers. Incarcerated women and their relatives and loved ones telling 12 News their worried conditions are unsafe and unbearable.
As we're in this heat wave, is it acceptable to have facilities that have broken air conditioners and broken swamp coolers?
It's understandable that parts fail and maintenance people have to come out and repair things, just like it happens at houses, just like happens in communities. And so we've had little blips, during this week where things might happen for an hour. We reset the system, bring it back online. I wouldn't say that our systems are, have to be wholesale replaced or that they're subpar or anything. When you're responding to 118, 120 degree temperatures outside.
We've had some of the women who are incarcerated at Perryville tell us that their rooms, or their cells, I should say, are temping at 100 degrees, sometimes higher. What do you make of that?
I had the Deputy Warden of Operations in cells this morning and again this afternoon, actually feeling the temperature of the cells, and they're in the mid-80s. I have not had a report of any cell hitting the hundreds or feeling like the hundreds. And I had staff in there today.
The temperature checks that you've been receiving, how can the public know that they're accurate?
Well, I think we have a professional staff that follows policies. We have our own supervisory staff that go through and do rounds and do quality assurance checks and all of that. So that's how I know they're accurate. People can question what happens all the time. I mean, that's their right to question it, but our staff are professionals, our staff care about their jobs, and our staff care about the wellness of the population. And so to say that what they're doing isn't accurate or not what it's supposed to be, that's just not something that I would entertain.
As for getting air conditioners for the units that only have swamp coolers, which house nearly 1,300 people, Director Thornell said it's approved in the budget for the next fiscal year.
Still to come from the I-Team.
Director Thornell's comments didn't satisfy family and friends of inmates.
They have girls that are throwing up, that are passing out. Something needs to be done. Please check on it before someone does pass away from it.
I am a loved one of an inmate, and she has told me today that it's still unbearable conditions in the rooms.
Anyway, I have a granddaughter there, and I'm hearing horror stories still.
People die in these conditions, and I just want to keep advocating for these women because they don't deserve, nobody deserves this.
Welcome back to this special presentation from the 12 News I-Team. We are joined now by 12 News journalist Erica Stapleton, who spent the summer investigating extreme heat conditions inside of Perryville Women's Prison.
Yeah, Caribe, it was mid-July when we first heard the complaints that the prison was too hot. But after hearing from the Department of Corrections' newly appointed director, the floodgates opened. We heard from dozens of families, friends, and inmates saying temperatures indoors were hitting 100 degrees or worse. And a little more than a week after we started that reporting, the director went to visit himself.
A lot's changed since we first sat down with Arizona Prison Director Ryan Thornell last Wednesday.
Have you been out to Perryville this week?
I have not been out to Perryville this week, no.
We've learned he's since been to Perryville, quote, several times to address heat concerns we asked him about.
He's actually spent time, especially in the women's prison, with the women in the cells, trying to see what the temperatures are like, what they're enduring, and they were too hot. And those were, his words, not mine.
How hot?
He didn't share with me the exact temperatures.
But he told you they were too hot.
They were too hot.
State Senator Brian Fernandez is on the state's new prison oversight committee and said he talked to Thornell after the director visited Perryville.
He is very well aware of what they're enduring. And I can share with you the kind of person he is. He's not someone that will let someone suffer like that.
So when he was there, he witnessed people suffering?
I believe he did, yes.
When we talked to Thornell before his visit, he said his staff at Perryville was giving him reports of cells temping in the mid-80s, despite incarcerated women and their families claiming to us that they were temping much higher in the 90s or low 100s throughout the month of July.
Our staff are professionals. Our staff care about their jobs. To say that what they're doing isn't accurate, that's just not something that I would entertain.
Thornell hasn't agreed to another interview with the I-Team. Instead, the department sent a statement Monday detailing a heat relief strategy, which includes free ice for inmates and misters in the yards at Perryville. Then, on Wednesday, the department announced that Perryville's warden, Laura Pyle, would be retiring at the end of the week after 23 years with the department. The department wouldn't comment on why she was stepping down, and we couldn't reach Pyle herself by phone or email on Thursday.
It shouldn't have gone on as long as it did. I think that even one day in these temperatures is one day too much. We are going to have long-term solutions.
Like prison buildings better equipped for air conditioning and replacing swamp coolers with AC and a cultural overhaul.
We need to have a mechanism to know about these things quickly. It shouldn't be days and weeks before we hear about them.
Director Thornell still has not agreed to another interview with us. However, the former warden who stepped down, Laura Pyle, did agree to talk and wanted to make sure her side of the story was told.
Under your watch, were the inmates safe from the heat?
Yes.
Former Perryville prison warden Laura Pyle defending herself and her staff.
We have a mitigation plan that we've been implemented, and we implement it every year, and we've already been doing that.
The I-Team first started reporting on concerns over hot cells last week, with claims from inmates and their families that cell temperatures were hitting the 90s or low 100s. After we brought these claims to the Department of Corrections Director Ryan Thornell, he went to visit Perryville and reportedly checked temperatures for himself.
There was a cell that was pretty hot. The information that I received after the fact was that cell had literally just gone down.
Meaning the cooling system went down. After that visit, Thornell made some changes over the weekend, like putting misters in the yards and more shade structures.
We were doing what we've done all the time, and we've never had an issue. The director probably got overwhelmed with as much information you guys were trying to get from us. We were on the news several times, and there's always somebody to blame at the end of the day, right?
Why do you think you're the person they blamed?
Because I'm the warden. At the end of the day, as a warden, I'm the one responsible for the facility. But I can tell you that the shades that he put that weekend, that's not something that I could have done. The misters that he put that weekend, that's not something that I could have done because our policy is very clear when it comes to water hoses. We can have water hoses out there. Those can be used for escape. They can be used for somebody to hang themselves.
Pyle said she wasn't given a chance to explain herself after the director's visit. And when she had a meeting with him Tuesday, she told him she was retiring after nearly 24 years. To her, the heat is nothing new.
It's a problem because it's hot, but it's not a huge problem because it's not like we don't do anything about it.
Instead, she said the problem is the old equipment, waiting on air conditioners to replace swamp coolers.
I was hoping they would be done before this summer because I knew this was going to happen.
When we sat down with Thornell last Wednesday, before his visit to Perryville, he said the AC units in question were in the budget for the end of next year.
Why is it taking so long for that long-term solution?
I would say it's not taking so long. The timeline's moving along as we would have expected it to.
The I-Teams asked repeatedly to do another interview with Thornell after he visited Perryville, but the department declined again on Friday.
Some inmates did say that they went to the media because they wanted the attention and they wanted to make sure that those ACs got put in.
And guys, later that same day, after speaking to the former warden, the I-Team finally received the first batch of records showing the temperature logs inside Perryville Prison. And the inmates got it right. Over and over, inmates said cells were more than 100 degrees, and the department's own records show that that's true. 100, 101, and 102, the three hottest temperatures recorded inside cells at Perryville Prison. Different than what the state corrections director told us last week.
I have not had a report of any cell hitting the hundreds or feeling like the hundreds.
The temperature logs just obtained by the 12 News I-Team show that cells in the Lumley unit, which does not have air conditioning, only swamp coolers, hit 100 or more on July 17th. A drastic increase from any other day recorded before it in July. July 17th stands out because that's the same day the I-Team first requested any information about the heat at Perryville. The records do not include any date beyond the 17th, prompting more questions about heat relief in the prison.
Did you ever tell corrections officers or staff members to alter the temperature logs?
That's a negative. Nobody did.
Do you think it was happening anyway?
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, just like he said, I'm going to say the same. I trust my staff.
Inmates also told the I-Team that temperatures were sometimes taken at the vent rather than in the rooms to appear lower.
One of the things that we did find out was that some staff were temping where the air comes out rather than inside the cell.
Which Thornell said is not policy.
Our protocol is not to aim it at the cooling vent or where the cold air is blowing in.
When we asked Pyle about the triple-digit temps, she said it was possible the cooling system broke down. Still, the women incarcerated at Perryville tell us these issues go beyond July 17th.
Obviously, the temperature logs raised a lot of questions, and as we kept pushing for answers, we uncovered even hotter temperatures. Coming up, we hear from the governor.
Are temperatures of 100 degrees in cells acceptable to you?
No.
Not at all?
No.
And a former inmate.
It's hard to want to better yourself and live in that type of environment and be tired and hot.
Stay with us.
Well, you've heard the expression, persistence is key. This summer, the I-Team continuously reported on conditions inside the Perryville Women's Prison. And after weeks of demanding records to verify the truth, 12 News investigative journalist Erica Stapleton learned just how hot the cells really were.
According to the department's own records, every single day from July 17th to July 31st, certain cells at Perryville Prison were higher than 95 degrees. And on 11 of those days, some cell blocks were over 100 degrees indoors, and once hitting temperatures of 109.
It's a perspective we don't often get to hear.
It's something that I vowed to speak out for these women.
Former Perryville inmate Sarah Schweigert.
It's bittersweet, but it's also like this place changed my life. It saved me.
Now speaking up, trying to save the other incarcerated women at Perryville.
It's a travesty to me that it's been all these years in prison in the desert, and our mothers and our sisters and our aunts and our family and even the men too, they're suffering.
Sarah spent 5 years at the women's prison in Goodyear, getting out in June 2023, right before July's big heat wave.
What is the hottest you remember your cell ever getting?
104.
Can you describe to someone what that feels like?
Death. Feels like everything's melting off of you and you're never going to make it out.
According to Perryville temperature logs obtained by the 12 News I-Team, certain cells at Perryville hit more than 100 degrees on July 17th. The department hasn't yet provided records beyond that date, but inmates and their family members repeatedly told the I-Team that the triple-digit temps in cells weren't anything new.
Are temperatures of 100 degrees in cells acceptable to you?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Governor Katie Hobbs did not respond to several of the I-Team's requests for an interview last month about extreme heat at Perryville, but sat down one-on-one with Team 12's Bram Resnick Wednesday.
How did you find out and did you communicate to your prisons director that, hey, something needs to be done here?
Well, I didn't have to communicate. He was on top of it, and he's the one that alerted us to the problem, and he's taking action.
Our reporting indicates he may not have been on top of it, either because he wasn't getting the right information or maybe just didn't grasp the situation. Did you see any evidence of that?
No.
Prison Director Ryan Thornell only went to Perryville after hearing extreme heat concerns from the I-Team in an interview on July 19th. At the time, he said he hadn't seen any reports of cells hotter than 100 degrees, despite the prison's own records showing that there were. Once he went to Perryville, he started making changes. Free ice, misters, plus Warden Laura Pyle stepped down.
We inherited a correction system that hasn't always treated people humanely, and so there's a lot of systemic issues that need to be addressed. So there's a lot that Director Thornell has been tasked with turning around there. I believe he's up to the task, and he's doing it. It's going to take a lot of time.
I think it's a good start. It's not enough. It's a little too late. They've known about these issues. They've known there's been issues for years, and they've done little to nothing about it.
Part of the problem, cooling equipment that can't keep up.
They need to put in air conditioning.
Another thing that stood out from the logs, that Lumley and Santa Cruz, the two units with swamp coolers, not AC, were consistently hotter than cells with air conditioning. The department says AC for those two units are in the budget, but not until the end of next year.
I need to get some water real quick.
Just standing outside the prison under a tree in the triple digits takes a toll on Sarah. A reminder that the extreme heat inside the prison doesn't just impact safety.
They're depleted. They're tired. They aren't getting any sleep.
To her, it hurts the rehabilitation efforts, a mission that's literally in the department's name.
It's hard to want to better yourself and live in that type of environment and be tired and hot.
And Erica, what other feedback have you gotten from your reporting?
You know, it's been a lot. There was a cascade of people writing in as soon as we started rolling on this, but something I was really moved by. I'll need your help to kind of extend this out if you can help me here. But this is a thank you note that was sent to me and the I-Team by several of the women incarcerated at Perryville. Some of those changes that came from our reporting were pretty small, but they were really significant to these women who felt them in the prison. And our reporting really led to some changes that made it safer, I would argue, because anything above 100 degrees in Arizona is way too hot to be living in those conditions.
And these are heartfelt messages. This one says, Erica, there are no words to express my appreciation. You have truly been a blessing to us women. Thank you for the support and for caring enough to help us. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Just the impact of this kind of reporting, right? Actually making a difference in our community.
Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing what changes continue down the road.
All right, Erica. Thank you. Well, still to come from the I-Team.
I have a sister that was also trafficked, and she passed while she was in that sober living home.
Widespread fraud in facilities meant to keep people sober.
You smoked pot today, right? Oh, yeah.
And safe.
Frankly, this is organized crime.
Desperate people struggling with addiction, picked up off the street and dropped in a home with drugs, alcohol, and no treatment available.
That's next.
The biggest scandal, according to Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, is one the I-Team has been covering continuously for more than a year.
An alleged scheme to take Native Americans from tribal land and bring them to sober living homes in the valley, where they don't get the services that we're paying for. Last December, 12 News journalist Chase Golightly met two women who told him that happened to their loved ones, and that's where we pick up this investigation.
The white vans. The first red flags.
They would stop at the bus stop, talk to somebody, go to the next bus stop, talk to somebody.
Offering food, clothes, and rehab.
She was approached walking on the street.
It happened to Reva Stewart's cousin in New Mexico.
She got in the van. There was She said for other people, they gave him alcohol.
She was allegedly brought to a Phoenix home and was told to sign up for the state's American Indian Health Program, which officials believe is how these centers get their money. When she said no, they let her go.
Rode around on the bus trying to figure out how am I going to hitchhike back.
Stewart found her cousin and took her home safely.
I have a sister that was also trafficked,
But for Colleen Chatter's sister,
and she passed while she was in that sober living home.
died in a sober living home, not unlike those in this Phoenix neighborhood, where about 20 licensed behavioral health homes existed as of January 2023, where we spoke to one man who said he was picked up from Tuba City in northern Arizona.
I got a ride. Yeah, I got picked up.
He said he was living at a sober living home and said he was okay. But when asked by a neighbor if he was sober,
You smoked pot today, right? Oh yeah.
and neighbors say they no longer feel safe.
Said I carry a taser now. I will not walk without one.
Barbara Massagia said she was out walking with her dog in September 2022 when in front of one of the homes.
Got to come across a dead body.
A body that she said was left out in the open.
The way it was positioned, it was put out on the street. There's no way that they died right there.
Police later identified the body as Carson Leslie, a Native American who group home workers said they picked up in Flagstaff. The workers said he appeared drunk and they offered him rehab. But on the drive back, workers said he threw up and fell asleep. It wasn't until they got to the home that workers said he was cold to the touch and called police.
This is Evelyn.
I spoke with the group home administrator on the phone. I'm recording this conversation for broadcast purposes. Evelyn DeSabi runs Victory Homes, which has 2 locations in the gated community. The problem is, according to Massagia and Phoenix Police, Leslie's body wasn't found at either one. But DeSabi denies several details in the report, saying Leslie wasn't throwing up in the car or showing signs of being sick, and her workers didn't put him on the street. That's not what it says here in this report. It says they found him in the road.
That's the wrong one.
She also said Leslie was taken to one of their licensed locations. DeSabi did not deny that her workers picked up Leslie while he was drunk in Flagstaff and brought him to the valley.
These are all people that have a problem to begin with, either sober living or mental health issues that are being brought here. We're not sure it's always under their own free will or that they understand what's happening to them.
Reports like these from Tuba City leading to dozens of Native Americans reported as missing.
It's been every kind of vehicle.
And a federal investigation.
So I'm a special agent with the FBI. I've been here about 6 years. I work healthcare fraud and complex financial crimes.
Special Agent Antoinette Ferrari says these illegitimate group homes are doing this for one reason.
So what it's predicated on is the money that people are getting.
With no intention of giving anyone help.
They're not getting the services for mental health illnesses or substance abuse that they actually need to be getting.
Making their victims sign up for access so they can make money. A lot of money.
We're talking about millions that have gone out.
Taking advantage of Native Americans and the system.
That's a huge concern for us. A lot of times they're being put in dangerous situations. Sometimes their children are being put in dangerous situations.
I spoke with that FBI agent in January, and since then, a lot has changed to crack down on sober living homes and rehab facilities. In May, the governor, the attorney general, and tribal leaders joined together to announce they're taking action, so far suspending more than 350 companies from being allowed to bill access, and now have a moratorium against new companies. And the AG's investigations have resulted in dozens of indictments and criminal charges for group home operators. And in July, the state closed down DeSabi's group home where Carson Leslie's body was found, and the health department ordered the company to pay $18,000 for repeat violations, including untrained staff and safety hazards in the home. Despite all those changes, the problem remains. In November, my colleague, William Pitts, spoke with a man who was going through rehab and said something wasn't right. Here's his story.
It's not easy to want to get help.
It's embarrassing, for sure. There's a stigma attached to it.
But this year, Eric Elliott finally did.
Bad as it can get. Just a lot. It was a progressive problem throughout my life. That's something that I finally decided to go and get help for.
Help for his alcoholism was supposed to be here. Pathfinders Recovery. After a detox, Eric enrolled in a residential sober living program. But right away, things felt strange.
Yeah, a lot of guys had just been there. And I was like, that seems weird.
The house itself, Eric says, was a disaster. Mold, water dripping from the ceiling.
We had the sewage overflow into the tubs. The entire house just horrible.
Then there were the group sessions.
Kind of a weird collection of us sitting around in a circle, talking about our days before that, and YouTube videos.
YouTube video? Like this is rehab?
Yeah, really weird.
Eric took photos from inside the house, people falling asleep on the couch, a YouTube video on the TV. That's comedian Russell Brand's YouTube show. Helpful at all?
Not particularly. A lot of what goes on there is you get transported to different AA meetings.
Alcoholics Anonymous, meetings that are also free.
It sounds like the AA meetings were more impactful than the rehab.
Yeah, those, the Celebrate Recovery meetings, far more helpful.
But the staff kept busing them to the Pathfinder's office, to AA. Eric kept trying to do the program. So did the other guys in his house.
You're all together at the center every day, right? So you're together all day long, and then you're together at meetings.
There were two Eric specifically remembers.
They went through the program and graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to them?
They died right after they got out of there.
He was 24 years old, Nicholas Szymanski, and he was a great young man. He had probably been to every rehab across the whole valley for maybe 5 minutes. Heroin was pretty much the drug of his choice for a very long time.
Tiffany Szymanski knew it would be an uphill battle. Nicholas had tried to get sober so many times, failed so many times, went to jail twice.
3 months inpatient at Pathfinders, and then he went to sober living for 2.5 months, and it worked great.
She hoped Pathfinders would stick, but heard similar stories like Eric's.
The rehab he spent 3 months at gave him a packet of information from day one saying, this is what we're doing and this is what you're going to learn here. They didn't go through even half of that stuff. After about a month, my son said all they do is sit there and fall asleep.
Tools Tiffany hoped would help her son, tools she says he never got. Then, on August 17th...
And I talked to him on the phone, and I said, you don't sound right. No, Mom, I'm fine, I'm fine. I knew the second I hung up the phone that he wasn't fine. I found him the next morning at 8:15 in the morning, and he'd been gone since the night before.
2 days later, Mickey Tryon, another former Pathfinder resident, also died. The medical examiner's report showed fentanyl and meth killed him.
Addiction's a very dangerous demon. It's very hard for many people out there. And if you're not given the correct tools to get through that, it's very, very hard.
After hearing from multiple patients and their families, the I-Team started asking questions. Days later, on October 5th, the Arizona Department of Health Services conducted its first inspection on record for one of Pathfinder's sober living homes. They found broken glass, exposed wiring, duct tape covering electrical outlets, trash, too many people living there, no manager living on site. Pathfinders was also cited for medicating the men who lived there. Sober living homes aren't supposed to be giving out any medication under state law. The state issued 11 citations in all. When we visited this week, there was trash piled outside, what looked like burned furniture. We tried contacting Pathfinders and their parent company, Baymark Health Services in Texas. They said they had no comment.
I can't see how they can sleep at night feeling okay with that.
Trust me, if it was at a private insurance company and they caught you doing that, they would not pay the entire bill. And the state will still pay.
Not anymore. As of November 3rd, Pathfinders has been suspended from access, accused of a long list of suspected fraud, billing while patients were in a psychiatric hospital, duplicate billing more than 30 hours of services for one patient in one day, billing for people who were in jail, billing for more hours than Pathfinders was even open. That suspension became a termination. Pathfinders is now barred from the access system for 5 years.
Well, if you're billing for 2 hours a group, shouldn't that be 2 hours of group? Should that not be one 14-minute YouTube video?
For Eric, his time wasn't a total waste. He is still sober.
Do you at least feel more equipped than you did when you went in?
I do. And a lot of that is through the work that I've put in on the outside. But I'm not going to discount that I didn't learn things while I was there. To be certain I did. There are good people at those places.
There's a life that's so much better out there. And he experienced it for 6 months of his life. and he thought it was the most amazing thing ever.
Tiffany says she's glad there are investigations underway, but her son is still gone after trying to get help.
Well, it's pretty outrageous. What needs to change?
There's a lot of things that need to change, really, and it starts with filing complaints because, frankly, the AG, DHS, Access, they all say they don't know if there's a problem unless somebody tells them that there's a problem. So you have to file some complaints. This also may end up requiring legislation. For example, in Arizona state law doesn't require a license to call yourself a sober living facility. You can just do it. And it's unclear right now if the legislature wants to change that.
All right, so something to watch out for next session. All right, Will, thank you. Still to come from the 12 News I-Team.
This is one of the deepest, darkest secrets of law enforcement.
Her sisters are here asking someone to help her.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Every day, our team of journalists work to shine a light on those issues that have really been kept in the dark. For the last 6 months, investigative journalist Bianca Bono has been looking into what some police advocates call a dark and shameful secret, that officers severely injured in the line of duty might fall through the cracks and not get the support they need despite their sacrifice. Bianca?
Yeah, Mark, last February, Phoenix police officer Tricia Eskridge was one of 9 officers hurt in an ambush. She was shot multiple times, and while she's still recovering from her injuries, she faced a new, unexpected challenge, losing a third of her income. Fearful of losing more, this summer we didn't talk to Tricia because she was still an employee and didn't want to jeopardize her case. That didn't stop her sisters, though.
Come with me.
Harrowing footage showing Phoenix police officers run toward danger.
Door.
It's February 11th, 2022. One officer has already been shot. With the gunman still inside, an infant has been placed on the front doorstep.
I got the baby.
As Officer Tricia Eskridge picks the baby up, the suspect opens fire.
You heard her get shot. And she still leaned over
and still picked up
that baby.
The video is hard to stomach. And when that police officer is your sister, it's nearly impossible.
It was awful.
It was really awful.
Eskridge was shot multiple times. It would change her life forever in ways she couldn't have predicted, in ways her sisters want to talk about.
She's drowning and no one helped her.
So we're helping her.
Tricia's service dates back decades when she enlisted in the Army. After she got out, the police academy was her next calling.
I honestly thought she'd get bored with it and stop.
I thought she'd retire when she was supposed to retire.
Instead, amid staffing shortages, she stayed on. 2 years later, the shooting.
Me, I'm shot.
You're shot?
Lots of times. You don't realize how devastating a gunshot is. It is debilitating.
Her heroism acknowledged across the country. She won an Active Valor Award and was considered one of the nation's top cops.
It's nice that they acknowledged her, but let's acknowledge her in a way that matters. Let's take care of her.
Unable to return to work due to her injuries, Tricia got workers' compensation, which amounts to 66% of her salary and covers medical bills, plus a City of Phoenix perk, which fills the gap to pay 100% of her salary, but only for 1 year. So in February of this year, for Tricia, a single mother of 4, on top of her physical battle came a financial one.
Everyone should be pissed. What the heck is going on here?
Shortly after that benefit ended, she submitted for disability retirement. 6 months later, it still hasn't been approved.
The city says this is how it's supposed to go. This is the system that injured officers have to navigate. How would you respond to that?
Fix it.
Right? It's
How is
ridiculous.
that okay?
Why would anyone be a police officer in Phoenix?
On August 1st, the City of Phoenix Police Pension Board met to discuss her case.
The consideration of disability application for Tricia Eskridge.
Instead of approving her claim, they delayed.
Sorry, Miss Eskridge, that we have to delay this just a little bit longer.
It just feels like nobody's helping her.
Now, a year and a half after being shot,
Put the baby down!
Tricia's sisters say they have no doubt Tricia would do it all over again.
We couldn't be prouder.
She's kind of my hero.
But after watching their sister put her life on the line, then suffer in more ways than one, they say it's time for them to be heroes for her.
Her sisters are here asking someone to help her.
And the day after that story initially aired, the Phoenix Police Pension Board did hear Eskridge's case and determined she would receive accidental disability, receiving half of her salary. Since then, she has appealed the decision, and now the board is working to reconsider the small but very important detail about what kind of gainful employment she might be able to get given her injuries. Meanwhile, former Arizona law enforcement officers and national advocates have been speaking out about this system, and I spoke with one state lawmaker who said he plans to bring the issue before the legislature next session and determine whether there could be changes to help Arizona officers that are shot or injured in the line of duty. And all of that reporting is on 12news.com, and you can find it by taking out your phone and scanning the QR code on your screen right now.
There's more to come on the 12 News I-Team after the break. Thanks so much for joining us as 12 News presents the I-Team 2023. Right now, we are joined by the group of journalists who have worked on the investigations that we spotlighted earlier this hour. But there is so much more.
And we are once again joined by our investigators who've done a phenomenal job this year, giving voice to the voiceless. And guys, what other investigations stick out over the past year? Well, I guess water is going to be an ongoing issue for us.
Water is an ongoing issue. It's been an issue for so long, and it will continue to be an issue. Groundwater specifically, in terms of why no one's tracking groundwater, how much we use, how much there is left, why we can't seem to get a hold of this problem, and whether or not the legislature or anybody else is planning on doing anything about it.
Erica?
You know, we did a lot this year on how the city of Phoenix is responding to its homeless crisis, particularly how pregnant homeless women were impacted. You know, it's something people don't often think about. And as we continue into next year, we're really looking to see how their response is continuing as the crisis continues to evolve. And we're also looking at gaps in the mental health care system that can lead to really bad outcomes, sometimes even deaths.
All right. And Bianca, you're talking about a story, you're looking ahead to a story about homeowners that should be happy, but instead they feel cheated.
When we aired our first report on housing, frankly, we were overwhelmed with the amount of responses we got. I got personally hundreds of emails of people just sharing their horror stories. It's no secret the valley, the outskirts of the valley continue to grow, so clearly this story is just not going anywhere.
All right. And Chase, yours is a very serious one, dealing with children.
Of course, and we're talking about Samuel Bateman, the self-proclaimed prophet of the FLDS Church, who had about 50 followers, dozens of wives, many of them underage. Very sad process. He's currently going through the court system right now in federal court, along with some of his wives, along with some of his male followers who have been with him through all these years. So it's going to be a very high-profile case, and of course, we're going to stay on top of it.
And this situation just doesn't appear to be going away up in Hilldale.
No, it doesn't. They're trying to get away from it. They're trying to start a new path, but unfortunately, there are just some people who are sticking to the old ways.
All right. Hopefully, we'll see some progress and some updates in 2024 on all of these stories.
Definitely.
And for more information on our investigations or anything else that we've done, you can scan the QR code on your screen. And our stories are also always available on 12news.com and our 12 News YouTube channel.